Hey howdies, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom. Today I'm getting ready to see a friend of mine that I haven't seen in like 10 years. Well, that's not true, but we'll tell you the whole story. I'm gonna start with my eyes today. I'm gonna use the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base. When Kaki came to visit me, we went to Nordstrom and I ran into a person I haven't really seen since high school. I guess a little bit after high school because I was like pretty close with their sibling. Me and this person I ran into at Nordstrom whenever I was with Kaki. We graduated high school the same year. I'm one of those people, no offense, but I'm not dying to run into anyone from my past whenever I go out, and especially people from high school. And I mean, like, I'm sure like all people feel like this way. I feel like anyone who feels they were an outcast in high school probably feels similarly. It's like the last people you want to run into are people from high school. There's just something about whenever you run into someone that you haven't seen since high school, there's like this comparison of quality of life that kind of happens. Whenever I saw this person, I felt only warmth, not only coming from her, but like I felt very warm about the situation in general. And we ended up talking for like a good 10 minutes while Kaki and her partner talked. Oh, I'm gonna be using this eyeshadow palette today. I thought about it all day and I said, I'd like to use that. So we're using Divine Rose 1 from Pat McGrath. I'm gonna keep everything pretty simple. So yeah, we were like talking a lot and it was like kind of pretty clear to me in that moment that I was like, I feel like we should get dinner. So I didn't say it at the time, but we exchanged numbers to continue, you know, catching up. And we followed each other on Instagram as well. And we didn't say anything the night that we ran into each other at Nordstrom, but the next day, as you know, as you may not know, this is like my ongoing theme for my year. Like I'm trying really hard to strengthen old friendships and create new ones. Just kind of being like more open to people. You know, I talked about this in my first video back. And so the next day, now that I confirmed we both still have the same number that we had in high school, which I don't think is like entirely uncommon, but I do feel like it's like not super common that people hold their phone number for that long. Like I've had my phone number since I was in middle school. So I followed up the next day and I was like, hey, like I really enjoyed like running into you. And I was like, I never enjoyed running into people from high school, but I was like, it felt really, really nice to see you. And I said, if you're up for it, if you want to get drinks or coffee or just like dinner, let me know. And here's something I'm gonna say, just to anyone who is maybe in the same boat. I feel like for a really long time, there was this automatic assumption that anyone over the age of 21 drinks. And I am coming to find that it's really good to give multiple options for like what you can do with a person. Because it's like, I feel like there was this default to like, let's get drinks. And I don't default to that. And I have had the feedback a couple of times from people that they're really grateful that I don't automatically just like only assume drinks. I'm like, I'll say drinks or coffee, like drinks and a walk, you know, drinks and, or like, you know, not drinks and coffee, drinks or coffee or dinner or whatever. People have been just showed appreciation for that. So yeah, I would not always assume that everyone drinks. And I don't think that we subconsciously do think that everyone drinks, but I'm finding a lot, and I don't know if it's just my age. I don't know if a lot of people, as they approach like the mid 30s, like you find that people are like less and less likely to want to drink. But that's like where I'm kind of finding myself now. I enjoy drinking, and I'm not trying to shame anyone who does drink. That's not the goal of what I'm trying to say here. I think I'm gonna use Cocoa for today's look for an eyeliner. Again, just doing a smudgy little wing. If we've had friends who have had struggled with like alcohol addiction, of course we wouldn't ask those friends to go get go get a drink with us. But like some people just don't like drinking, you know, and don't want that to be like the first option you think of whenever you like want to see them. But you also, obviously, there are people you know in your life who would be like very into that, and so don't be afraid to ask those people. I don't know. It's just food for thought. That was at the tail end of last year where I ran into this person, and I'm not saying her name, not because I think she would care, but you know, what I do here is like my business and not necessarily your business, you know what I mean? I might plug her business in here because I think her business is something that you guys could participate in no matter where you are. God, these wings are not even close to the same. That's a shame because I did such a good... It's a shame. It's a shame, as we all know. I did such a good job on the one side and it's like, of course, and do exactly the same thing that the other side did. we were supposed to get dinner like all this month. Like it kept like she got sick at the beginning of the year, and she like got really sick. Like, we had to reschedule. We have had this on the docket every Thursday since the beginning of the year, and it is it's like the last, I think it's the last Thursday of the month. It is, I think it's the 25th. So we have been planning to do this like, what, since the 5th? It's finally happening today. It wasn't COVID that she had some kind of like respiratory thing, and it like put her down for the count for a while, and she couldn't work for a while. And like the first week she got sick, and then the second week she was like, my doctor says I'm probably still contagious. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. It's a lot. She was just sick for like the whole month. I do want to tell more stories about me and this friend and like the history of our friendship, because I think it's a little important. And I think this has a lot to do with why I feel like an incredible warmth towards her. When I was in high school, I did my freshman year in regular school, and then I did my sophomore and junior year in cyber school, and then I went back my senior year. And the reason I went back my senior year is because I felt ready to like handle myself around people who are not going to be agreeable to me. We were both in band, and I don't know if every high school does this, but I assume they do, because band camp would be like it's essentially like a day camp where we would learn how to do the halftime show, so that the first week of school, at the first game, you would know what to do. And I don't know if it was exactly in band camp where we made the connection, but we both played the flute. And obviously like we had been in high school together my freshman year, and then I went away, but we weren't like friends before I like left high school and then like came back to high school. And I'm not saying like we were villains or anything. We weren't rivals or anything. We weren't incredibly close before I went to cyber school and then I came back. But like when I came back, you know, I'm clockably queer, if you can believe it. But I even was in high school, and obviously just because you're clockable doesn't mean anyone should be trying. Me and this May are on mixing like liquid every time. Very early on in the school year, I feel like she didn't say this outright, but I think she just kind of clocked that I was queer. And then like she and her family, like she's well, I don't know if she's queer, because obviously I haven't talked to her in years. So she might be. I feel like she clocked me, but she didn't like out me or ask me if I was queer. But like over time I learned that like she was in a GSA, which is a gay straight alliance. I don't know if that's like still something kids do these days. She was in a gay straight alliance, and then like her mom has a lot of gay friends, or had, you know, again, I'm really kind of speaking, you know, directly to a past version of all of ourselves. I learned over time that she was going to be like a very safe person for me to be myself around. And yeah, that's how we kind of became friends. And it was her and her sibling. Her sibling is non-binary, or I don't know what their identification is as far as that, because, you know, I identify as non-binary, but there's like genderqueer, and, you know, there's levels to that. So, but I do know that they use they them pronouns, so I know at least that much. They were not non-binary when we were in high school, or like we didn't know. I mean, again, I wasn't out as non-binary in high school either. I was also close with their sibling, and I feel like I did New Year's Eve at their house a couple of times. Yeah, like it was like a whole thing. And I think that like that warmness, that warm feeling of being like welcomed, like just came right back to me whenever I saw her. Because it was just like, we hugged, and it was like, but it felt like a warm hug. Also, like, metaphorically speaking, it was like, oh, this feels so good to like see you. And it also just like felt, this is gonna stick with me here, it felt good to feel good about that kind of interaction, because I don't know why I live in this like constant dread that I'm going to run into people. And I also have a bit of imposter syndrome about this sometimes. I don't really have it like on the platform anymore, or like peer to peer here, or like peer, like, you know, for me to a viewer. Like I don't have imposter syndrome. Like I know that a lot of people watch my channel, you know, and I know that I also obviously know like the amount of work I put into this, and then also what the payoff of that work also has been. But whenever you're like talking to someone that you haven't seen in a while and they're like, what do you do? Like I'll talk about my other job, but I mostly talk about this whenever I talk about work, because like it's the work that I'm most interested in. I get sometimes I get a little bit weird whenever I'm talking to people in real life about it, because it's like, I feel like, you know, you say I do YouTube, and then like I immediately feel this need to like justify or qualify what I do here, because it's like, you know, unless if you feel like, you know, the perception is if you're not Mr. Beast or Jenna Marbles, or like, you know, I'm using Jenna Marbles as a reference. I know we all know that she's no longer on the platform, but people who are my age who maybe don't stick around on social media, and that's, you know, that's another thing I find too. And I think it's a lot of people my age like don't really use social media like a lot of people do. And I think that's just like a little bit of an age thing. But I think instead of like diving in hard to a platform, like kind of like the boomer generation did with Facebook, we were like, a lot of people in my age are just kind of like, I just don't really do any of it. It's like they have them and they might post rarely, but it's like not what they're all about. I mean, I don't really like using Instagram either. If you look at my grid, it's like I do post there and it's like quality content, but it's sparse. It's like I don't post very often over there. As I put that on my eyes just now, I was like remembering, I was like, this is why it's the Pat McGrath palette I kept, because it looks really good on my skin. Like it looks really good with my skin tone. It's a really great palette. I'm using a foundation I'm not going to be talking about with you. Sorry, and it won't be in the description box either. Yeah, so we're going to the Forge, which is in Lawrenceville, which is like actually where I was. Well, I don't know. I have a couple of these banked right now, so I don't know if this one came out first or the next one will, but they'll find that I'm in Lawrenceville quite a bit. It's also where I get my hair cut. It's over that way. I'm testing this foundation. And maybe for seeing a friend for the first time in a while, this wasn't the smartest idea. So we're going to the Forge, which I've looked at going to before, but I've never gone. I think it's like a wood fire pizza place. Oh no, we'll find out together. So I'm looking forward to going to a new place to me. I almost took my friend Kristen there last year for her birthday. It was on my short list because it looked really cool from the photos. And like, we love pizza. Like, who doesn't love pizza? I mean, I guess if you're gluten-free, you probably don't really love pizza. I don't know. I just love pizza. It's like one of those things, and it's like how juvenile. It's like, it's certainly something I could eat like every day of the week. Like, that's how I feel about it. And it does look like their cocktails are pretty good. Also, that's like another thing. I'm a cocktail girly. Like, I love a good cocktail. I love a seasonal cocktail menu. I tend to like a whiskey beverage, but honestly, if it's like a good seasonal cocktail menu, I'll order whatever. Like, I'm not really picky. I don't have tequila's not my favorite, but I do really love mezcal, so I feel like that makes up for that. Like, I feel like people who are really into tequila get pretty upset whenever I'm like, I don't really care for tequila, you know? It's also like, me and this person, we both kind of did like the same thing. We got a couple years into college and we like, or at least one. We got at least 1 year into college and then we were like, I don't want to be at this college anymore. And then she went to SCAD. She went to Savannah's College of Art and Design, and I think her degree is like in fibers of some sort. I also wanted to use this eyeshadow palette because I wanted to use this blush today. I love this blush and I hadn't worn it in a while, and I was like, we gotta bust out this one. After my freshman year, I transferred, and then like I transferred again. I went to Chicago. I think she did finish out her degree at SCAD, and she still works in fibers now, which is like, that's really cool. So I can't wait to hear about it. I feel like at the time though, me and her sibling gave her a lot of shit about the choice to work in fibers, but she's doing it now. It's interesting because I pulled back on like doing this work a little bit. I feel more tired than I did when I was doing it more. And I think, oh, also I talked about that. I'll talk about the foundation I used eventually. We're not talking about it yet today. It's also just my second run with it, so I don't have much to say really quite yet either. I'm just really interested to hear like what's gone on in her life since we last crossed paths. And it was really funny when we ran into each other. She was wearing a mask and I saw her eyes and I was like, that looks like person. And I like just had that thought. And then she pulled down her mask and said my name and I was like, oh my God. It's also, I mean, as a person who's queer and runs in the queer community, it's very funny. Like, whenever I asked her about her sibling, I was like, don't say don't use gendered things. And then Becca, and then she was like, is your name still Tom? And I was like, it is still Tom. It's still Tom. It's interesting though. Every time that comes up, I think, should I have changed my name? And it's like, it's probably not. You know, I don't dislike my name. My name is, it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, if I didn't like it, if it caused me like dysphoria or something, I would probably change it. I don't mind it. I think it's a pretty good name. My hair needs to be cut pretty badly right now. My haircut is like, haircutting appointments in a couple of days. And then I realized that day, I'm getting my haircut in Lawrenceville during the day, and then I'm going out in Lawrenceville that night. Do you ever do something like that where you like go to a particular part of the city or like a particular neighborhood for part of the day, and then you also have plans to like do something there later, and you just like didn't plan it out very well in your brain? That's what's happening. But I got invited to the thing that I'm going to on Saturday like last week. So it's like I pre-booked my haircut appointments. Controversial and brave. I can hold an appointment. Isn't that crazy? A lot of people don't pre-book. As someone who worked in the industry for a while, I know that people don't like to pre-book because they're like, they don't think they're gonna make it. You know, they think they're too busy. I'm just using the highlighter from inside the eyeshadow palette. I figured that would have to match. I feel like everything on my face goes. And then mascara. I just realized that I need to go get my ID picture taken again. And I want to get real ID, which is gonna cost me more money, which I also don't love. Just complaining problems. I mean, in theory, you don't really have to get real ID. However, if you travel with people who have real IDs and then you get carded, people don't believe that that's you. Don't believe that your card is real. Oh, I did do a lip. Back in my early days of YouTube, I would say be right back, as if I couldn't just edit that part out. And I did it twice in this video, and I have edited it out. But it's so funny that I like it's like almost as if I am talking to a real person, like in real time, where I'm like, hold on, I'll be right back. Don't you worry. Like, what do I do that for? Like, hold on. I have control over this narrative. Entirely. I've been really into this Ravi Beauty lip balm, tinted lip balm, the shade Dahlia. Also, when I go out to eat, picking a bold, complicated lip is like, not it. Like, that's not really the tea. Okay, and then I'm gonna do my hair. I'm gonna do that off camera, and then I will be back and show you, you know how these go. So yeah, like, subscribe, whatever, if you want to. That's fine. This took me 29 minutes, by the way. In real time, this look took me 29 minutes. It's amazing how fast I can go when I don't have to talk about every single product. Woo!